Hello there. Welcome back to the Force Collective. I've returned after a while, and so is my friends Chrono and Soraya Way. Soraya Way absent at the moment, but he'll be back. Anyways, there's been a lot of things going on recently. But not just Star Wars, though. I can mention a few things notably. But I'm going to wait for everybody to be back before I start talking about one of them. But like with the Acolytes cancellation and a bunch of other things going on, it's just like there's so much craziness going on right now. And I mean, I'm happy about the Acolyte being canceled. I'm very happy about that. And it how dare I? Listen, they wouldn't have canceled it if it were popular, and it clearly is not. So I'm not the
It would also have to be good.
Yeah, that's true. It would have to be good as well, which it was not. And let's see. Never mind. Okay, sorry. Anyways, now that Soraya is back, we can just go ahead and mention the big thing that I want to start off with today, and that would be saying goodbye to Sir James Earl Jones, Darth Vader's voice, Mufasa's voice. You know, just a legendary voice in general. You know, he passed away this morning at age 93, and it's just very sad, you know, to see such a legendary voice. Well, not even let's look at him as a person. He's not just a voice, like such a person with such talent to leave us. So it's a sad day for Star Wars fans for something like this to happen. Well, with that out of the way, we can go ahead and start talking about everything else. But I just got to reiterate that it is a sad day, and there's barely any good news as it is for Star Wars, besides act like it's canceled. So it's just bad news. Bad news. Well, so now that we're here, we can go ahead and start talking about some of that other bad news for at least for Disney, not necessarily for us. And that would be the cancellation of the Acolyte and the weird uproar of the supposed supporters for the Acolyte that didn't show up for the show, but they're showing up to get it restarted again, which is weird.
They probably stay. They probably showed up for the show. It's just that 70,000 people don't really move the metrics much for a television show.
I think you're cutting out a little bit, sorry, away.
Oh God, okay.
I'm sorry. But what I heard was 70,000 people.
Oh, okay. Just a little bit. Can you hear me a little bit better?
A little bit, but you still sound sort of like the droid from Star Wars Episode 6.
Yeah, you sound like a droid, and you're cutting out.
Okay. Give me a second.
Well, while he's doing that, there was I did see the petition with I think 75,000 votes on it, which I think is, crazy. I didn't honestly think it would get that many. It did surprise me. But I don't believe that's going to save that show because there's way more people not watching it than there was watching it. Very obvious, due to because it's canceled now. But the fact that these people think that they can get it started back with the petition, I don't believe it's going to work.
No, it won't. It all seems like a coordinated effort to cope and try to justify certain jobs that will probably be lost over this.
Yeah. And I mean, I can't help but think that, these people are just living in such a bubble where they think that they're the only ones that matter, and they're thinking that the majority doesn't matter when it comes to them. And
Well,
that's what
well,
we're
that's
seeing.
another problem. That's another problem over there because they have been told over and over by the Twitter people that they are the majority, and some of them actually believe they are.
And that's ridiculous. I mean,
Yeah.
the facts are that the show is canceled because nobody was watching it. And they're trying to blame the toxic people for making people not watch it. But like, there was people that showed up, and less people showed up as each episode came along.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no way the show was actually that good, and we just missed out on it.
It's also very ridiculous. I mean, I couldn't help but laugh when they said that it was because of us. We have been complaining about this for about 10 years. When
Yeah.
did they ever listen?
And they didn't. That's the problem. Sure, they brought back the Clone Wars at one point, which was something that everybody wanted, but they only brought it back for 13 episodes. But it was still like a conclusion. But that was the only light at the end of the tunnel besides seeing Luke at the end of Mandalorian season 2. And
Yeah.
where are we at now? They won't show Luke hardly on anything else. Well, I mean, they did in the Book of Boba Fett, but they ruined what could have been a really, really good storyline between Luke and Grogu.
Yeah.
We could have gotten a Jedi Academy show with Luke as the main character, trying to set up a Jedi Academy. But no, here we are with, Kenobi and Ahsoka, which apparently is getting a season 2, I heard. And it's actually confirmed at this point.
Sorry,
And then, was it, sorry?
Yeah.
are we talking about Ahsoka as a season
Yes.
2 or Kenobi?
No, Ahsoka season 2. It's apparently been confirmed recently. I could have my facts wrong. I read up briefly on it, but I just heard there's an Ahsoka season 2, which I'm not opposed to necessarily if they do it right, but with their track record, I'm not so sure. Though I will say there has been a shift recently in how entertainment has been faring, and I'm not talking about just movies. I'm also talking about gaming, starting with two specific games. Well, we could talk about the third one too, but the two of the worst games so far, the most colossal of failures, would be Dustboard and Concord. And then you can throw Star Wars Outlaws in there too, because it's not selling well. And honestly, it don't look good. The game itself looks like, from what I've heard, is riddled with glitches, and it just don't look good. I've seen better games from indie developers than.
Oh, you're talking about the game. I thought you were talking about the protagonist when you say it don't look good.
Oh, well, the protagonist looks awful too. I mean, it's not just. They did a disgrace to the model that they used for the protagonist. They did a disgrace to her.
And she's so dumb that she supports that.
Yeah. Like, why support something like that? I mean, I don't want people to look at me as like somebody who's ugly. I want somebody to find me somewhat decent to look at.
Yeah, that was like saying, "Oh, hey, come on, take the ugliest picture of me you can, please, and post it."
Yeah, I don't like that. Sorry, I'm sorry, but you're still sounding like a droid.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But it's crazy, and it's not just Star Wars Outlaws that's done this. There's been plenty of games to follow this dumb trend of uglifying their characters so they can't be sexualized, which I get. If you don't want to be sexualized, that's perfectly fine. I don't think that should be the goal of making a character look good is to make them sexualizable. That's not even a word, but I'm making it a word. But
Yeah.
that shouldn't be the goal of the creators, which I think is perfectly fine to, not over sexualize the characters, but
Yeah,
to make
it's not that we want this game to look like Dead or Alive or something like that. But come on, if
exactly.
she's a woman, she's supposed to look a certain feminine way.
But see, therein lies the problem right there. They hate men, but they're making their women look more like men every single time they make something. And I'm just wondering, do they really hate men, or do they want to be men?
I
Maybe
think
they
it's
hate us
both at
because
the
they
same
aren't
time.
us.
I think it's both.
Yes, I'm starting to see that. The thing
It's like
is,
it's like
both,
have you ever seen like the Fairly Odd Parents?
yes, I
Yeah,
love the Fairly Odd Parents.
it reminds me of that scene where Trixie's friend, the cheerleader, she's at her place worshiping her friend, and she's like, "I hate you. Why can't I be you?" And that's exactly yes, that's their mindset.
And I mean, I'm not saying that they're all like that, but I mean, it's sort of weird that they're making more of their women look more masculine to make them less sexual. But they don't have an issue objectifying a man. And I'm just trying to think, are they trying to do a role reversal that but it's not working, but okay, try it. It's not working. I mean, we clearly have the weirdos that like to ship certain people, like whatever his name is in the Acolyte, and then what, her Osha, I think? I don't know. Forgot for Chimere. It's Chimere and Osha, I think. They
Yeah,
sexualized him, making him naked and everything, and just
yeah,
she turned to the dark side because she fell in love with a guy that she saw naked. So
yeah.
I mean, it's it.
And
I
they
don't
were not
understand.
subtle at all.
No, they weren't. And I I don't know. I find it very difficult to believe that they think that this stuff will be popular. Like, oh yeah, we're shifting the culture. We're making things the way it should have been. We're not objectifying women, which I'm perfectly fine with that. Mind you, I don't want to objectify women because they're people too. But if they think that the only reason we watch stuff or play stuff is to objectify the female characters in it, and that's the only reason why it's popular, then they got another thing coming. I mean, sure, they might, in a way, be proving that by their stuff being failures, but at the same time, that doesn't technically prove anything. It really doesn't. It just shows that what they're doing isn't working. And for the smart people in the world who aren't like falling for these tricks that they are trying to play on the the masses, that those people, they know what it's about. They know that that's not the reason why they play something. Though I know there are probably some out there that are racist or want to sexualize women. All those things that they accuse everybody of. I'm sure there's people like that in the fandoms of every franchise. But you can't claim that to be the majority when something you make doesn't do good, because clearly if the majority don't like it, it's because you're not talented enough to make something they want, or you're too blinded by your own ambitions to make something that would be worth paying money for. So
And it's not even true because they started those claims about racism, and it's like if you look into the forums and Twitter and whatever place you look at, the complaints had nothing to do with race.
exactly.
I mean, yeah, sure, the protagonist is not a white person, but no one was saying, "Oh, this show sucks because she's not white." That was never the case. Actually, she
Exactly.
took it so personal when she was the least criticized character. it was all about the plot and the way they portrayed the Jedi. That was the issue for most fans.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And it, you know, I think people like that are delusional if they believe that it's actually because of the race or the gender or something like that, you know, or their orientation. I don't know. But if they really believe that, then they are the ones that are delusional. That stuff isn't necessarily, I mean, I feel like the world is more accepting of all that, regardless of, you know, the people that disagree with it, sure. But I feel like the world is more accepting of it now than it's ever been. And yeah, I have my disagreements with it at times. But, you know, at the same time, I respect all those people that do have a different orientation or that are a different race. I don't have an issue with race. Everybody to me is the same, whether you're black, white, Asian. I'm trying to think of other ones. Australian. We'll say Australian for Soraya Way since he left us. I don't care what you are. You can be anything. You can be an alien from outer space as long as you're a good person. That's all that matters. And I mean, I guess that might be a lot coming from a white guy, I guess, in his room making live streams. But, you know, you can be whatever you want. I mean, that's totally up to you. And as long as you treat me with respect, I'll treat you with respect. And that's all that matters. That's all that really should matter. And if you expect somebody to treat you a certain way while you also disrespect them, I mean, you're delusional. So.
And it's pretty stupid to force things like that because Star Wars was always anti-racist. They always portrayed racism in a bad light. They did it with droids. They were always showing how droids were less than citizens. And they were always, the Empire was super racist towards aliens. They wanted only humans.
Yeah, they were the bad guys, for heaven's sake.
Yeah.
But here we are trying to make the Empire more inclusive with the First Order and have, you know, and I'm not complaining. Don't get me wrong. I'm not complaining. But they never showed women in the Empire. Sure, they added that later on, and I'm perfectly fine with it. But if you really wanted to portray them as the bad guys, you could have had them be sexist too and painted that kind of behavior in a bad light as well. I mean, it's not that hard to, you know, understand. It's not hard to understand that. But, you know, who am I? And with the way things are nowadays, I mean, all this stuff will just go over the heads of those people that are just brainwashed by this mentality, you know? They can't see rationally. They can only see with their emotions, and that's also very much dark side-ish. I don't know if they've noticed, but, you know, strong emotions like anger and stuff lead to the dark side. They are sort of being the very evil that they say that they are here to destroy, so...
Yeah.
Well, that's what makes Headland so perfect for the Alkalite, because she said that she's Sith, and I kind of believe it. The funny thing is that she any of it though. Oh no, they're not. No, they're not. Find out what ultimate freedom, and then come the Sith are the good guy.
And I mean, I want a good like villain show as much as the next person, but you're trying to paint the villains as the good guys. It doesn't really work that way.
Well, they want to paint they want to paint the bad guys as the oppressed. But that just doesn't work in the Jedi Sith dichotomy. And
No.
I don't even think the Sith would agree to being in that dichotomy and being put in that place of the dichotomy.
Exactly. They are far from wanting to be like seen as weak enough to be able to be oppressed like that. The Sith are very prideful.
Now, if acting oppress,
Sorry, away. Did you disappear? I think he disappeared.
Yeah.
He sounded so good. His
Okay.
delicious voice returned. There he is.
I switched over to earbuds, and I was
Oh god.
just had to take the earbud out for a second and put it back in. And as I was putting it back in, I was touching the touchpad, and of course, it muted me.
Oh.
Oh, you pulled a save.
But it was a conspiracy from Disney that they don't want me to say what I'm about to say.
Yes.
Trying to
let's blame
silence
Disney.
But yeah, what I was sort of saying is that I could understand a Sith going, "Oh, I'm oppressed. I'm oppressed. I'm oppressed. Oh, you're not looking. Backstab." I can understand that, being deceptive. But I don't think that's where they were going with the Alkalite.
No.
No,
They're
Yeah.
trying to show that the dark side is like power that should be used, but the Jedi, since they're the ruling power, think that it shouldn't be. So the people that use it are the oppressed ones. And I think that's so ridiculous.
Yeah, Leslie even said in an interview that this was before the show came out, that Star Wars wasn't about good and evil. And I was like, did you watch the damn movies?
When was it never about good or evil? I mean, they literally made Star Wars Episode 4 in a very black and white way, like the light side being good, the dark side being bad. I mean, for heaven's sake, Darth Vader is wearing a black suit. Okay. Luke is wearing a white tunic thing that, he started off wearing white. A lot of shows and movies back then like to symbolize the morality of characters through what they wore. And especially, I noticed this especially in old Westerns, like where the bad guys would have black hats while the good guys would have white hats, so you can make sure you know who the bad guy is and who the good guy is. But, and maybe I'm rambling off on something else, but the way I've seen it's a definite evil versus a definite good, like, sure, we got Han Solo, who's like a morally great character. He's only doing it for the money, but he ends up in the very end coming back and helping Luke destroy the Death Star. So he's probably leaning more towards the good side in this movie, but he's still that morally great.
No, he's absolutely no, he's not a morally great character. Don't get caught in that. He is not a morally great character. He's selfish. Well, sorry, he's a Han first character, but he's morally good. That's sort of what I'm trying to get at.
Let me rephrase
there is no great, because I mean, the one thing you need to know about really great characters would shoot their ass if it meant that they would achieve what they need to achieve.
Okay, no, you're right.
Morally great characters are goal-oriented.
Okay, you're right. That is true. I'll give you that one.
Yeah, he's a good person, but he's always looking out for himself.
Okay, so
Yeah.
he's just a selfish character, but still in the end, even though he was less of a hero throughout the movie than Luke was meant to be the definite good, Han Solo, a little less that because he's got his own flaws of being selfish. He's not a coward by any means. But he's selfish and sort of just wants to look out for his best interest, which for a character like his, it's perfectly fine, and characters like that can make a very compelling story. But we're seeing a definite good versus a definite evil, and then Han Solo becomes part of that definite good. We see a sort of progression, a slight progression with his character by the end. I mean, as you can tell, he turns around and comes back to help Luke. That goes completely against what Han Solo would normally do if you're just looking at that movie and how his character was portrayed before he met Luke. Or not before he met Luke, but before like everything that happened. You can tell what kind of character he was. The kind that would look out for his best interests, like you said. That would be something totally against what his character would have believed in. But after they'd been through what they've been through on the Death Star, maybe he's thinking, well, I've seen what this thing can do. How about we just not let it happen again?
Yeah, either that or he figured, I really like this Leia chick, and she's probably not going to be keen on me not helping her brother. So
No. More of a case of I like this Leia boy.
You're cutting out quite a bit. Sorry, away again.
Oh, son of a.
I'm sorry. No, you don't sound like a droid. Your voice comes in clear. It's spotty. So you'll be saying something, it stops, and then you'll say something again, it stops again. Yeah, that's what we're experiencing here. So repeat what you said. Or not.
Have I stopped? Not all funny? Is it all good?
So far.
Yeah, you sound fine, but you cut out a lot.
Well, sorry. That's what I'm asking. Am I cutting out at the moment?
No,
Yeah.
you're not.
Not right now.
Okay, cool.
Okay, now repeat what you said.
Okay. What I was saying is that maybe it was more of a case of I like this Leia chick. I don't want that farm boy to have her.
Okay, I mean, I can see that too, especially with their interaction by the end of the movie. He's like, "Hey, so you think a guy like me?" And Luke's like, "No," automatically, and then he gets that smirk. He's like, "I'm going to take this girl from him now. I see where this is going."
And then Han gets the girl because sister.
Well, I mean,
Luke
gets Mara Jade later on. So. Yeah.
He would have gotten her anyway because women go for the bad guy. So.
Yeah, the bad boys. Oh yeah. They don't go for the good guys. They always go for the bad boys. The ones that ride up in a motorcycle.
I mean, you have to look at the red flags there. Luke risks his life to save this princess, and the moment she meets him, what did she say?
You look a little short.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
Luke should have walked away that second.
He's like, well, I was going to help you, but I guess not now. Fine. Insult my heart. How dare you?
Enjoy your torture, princess.
The expectations of women wanting 6 foot men to save them. 6 foot or higher. Let me put it that way. It's always got to be 6 feet. It's weird. Why not 5'9" or 5'12" or 5'10"?
Well, you know, they want 6 feet horizontally, but maybe vertically, maybe not horizontally.
I don't think 6 foot vertically or horizontally, would be very comfortable. But So with I lost my train of thought there. Where were we? Oh, we were talking about the Star Wars being about good and evil. That's where we were at. Okay. And I mean the whole like premise of the prequel trilogy is showing the rise and fall of Anakin, showing how he was a good person, you know, and then changing to do such horrible things by the end of it. But that's because Palpatine was manipulating him because of his good heart. Anakin had a heart for the people, you know, the people he cared about. But Palpatine used that against him. It was a weakness. So I don't see how somebody can take all Star Wars and say, "Oh, it's not about good or evil," when it clearly is. I mean, red is the signature color of the Sith, red and black. I mean, it's not just red. I mean, look at Darth Maul; he's both of them with his red lightsabers. Darth Revan,
and being red and black.
What? Who did?
And being red and black.
Oh yeah. I mean, exactly. And there's a lot of, you know, characters in the Star Wars universe that are evil that's used red as part of their color scheme, because red is usually used as a more aggressive color. And I mean, it's not even just Star Wars. It's universally. If the bad guys have red eyes, they're usually like bad. You know, like if let's say Transformers, for instance, Megatron has red eyes, while Optimus Prime has blue. I mean, the little symbolism of color shows who the good and bad characters are. And I mean, maybe I'm going too deep into this. Maybe this is something that, you know, we really shouldn't have to discuss, because I mean, honestly, we really shouldn't. This is a concept as old as entertainment in general, is color coding.
Hang on. Red eyes don't necessarily mean evil.
I know I'm not necessarily saying red eyes specifically, but most of the
Helsing and Victoria, or sorry, Alucard and Victoria.
I was wait, hold on. They have. I get it. I know where you're going with Helsing. I know where you're going with that. They are the good guys. I get it, but they are also considered partly villains because they are what they are fighting. I mean, you got, what's the priest's name? He's clearly a villain that we are meant to see as a villain, but he is, yes, I forgot his name. Gosh, sorry. But he's clearly the villain, but he is fighting to get rid of the vampires in the world. The vampires are considered evil, which most of them have red eyes, so they're mostly evil, you know. But then we have Alucard and Victoria, who just so happen to be two of probably the only good ones out there. One of them's struggling to keep her humanity for the first little bit of the first season, which I've not fully finished yet. I actually just started watching it not too long ago. So
Alexander Anderson.
Yes, that's right. And he is the religious, like, he's like a fanatic, a religious
paladin.
Yes, he's a paladin, but he's like fanatical in his belief.
Yeah.
But he sees himself as the good guy because he follows what the supposed right side. And so wiping out all the vampires from, you know, their I can't even speak words today. Just wiping out all the vampires is like, you know, his way of cleansing the world. That's what I'm trying to say. And, you know, removing evil from it. Even though his methods might be fanatical, he reminds me a lot in a way of Saw Gerrera in Star Wars, how he does things fanatically, but he has a ultimate good goal. And for some, he could be seen as the villain if he's too fanatical, but he still ultimately has a goal for good. Now, does that mean he's good? No. Does that mean he's bad? No. It sort of just, I guess, goes. You have to sort of see the character progress and see which way they're leaning more towards and what their actions sort of bring before you can actually say who's the villain and who's not.
Yeah, same is true for Anakin. I mean, he even said it himself. He wanted to save people by creating a more just system. And he was asked by Padme, like, well, how are you going to enforce that? Will you force them to comply? And he was like, yeah, if I have to.
And I mean, it does sound like a dictatorship, but if it works, I mean, I'm just kidding, sort of. But no, it's Anakin did have the, like, you know how the Jedi are more supposed to be peacekeepers. Well, Anakin was brought up in that time of peace, but war came as a younger guy, you know. So he's like, as the war went on, that sort of molded his belief of how the Jedi should be. So he, you know, he's not like, let's say, Obi-Wan, who was a Padawan way before Anakin was even born in this time of peace, or like Qui-Gon, who grew up way before that war was ever considered. You know, like they all grew up in a time of peace where there was no war. I mean, sure, there was little squabbles around the galaxy, but they weren't fully, like, especially Qui-Gon, he wasn't part of the war. But we could see the difference between Qui-Gon's beliefs and Anakin's. Qui-Gon was more like in tune with the Force, while Anakin is more of a warrior type Jedi. He's out there trying to do what needs to be done to end war, because that's all he's really ever known is the war. Because that was probably
that own suffering.
Well, yeah. Exactly.
Well, I don't know if you could talk. I don't know if you could say his life as a slave was all suffering, but
I wouldn't say that necessarily. He only had 9 years.
He didn't seem all upset by it. He didn't seem like an unhappy slave.
No.
So, I mean, he probably wasn't treated the worst out of all the slaves that were there, which is a good thing, you know. But
yeah, because he was useful. He could do the mechanic thing.
Yeah, but he's not the only slave there, and it's untelling what he did see as a slave during that time. And maybe his mother went through stuff that he didn't necessarily go through, but he saw that his mother went through things. And, you know, her being a slave, she may have gotten mistreated. Who knows? You never know. I mean, he didn't even grow up with a father, for heaven's sake. All he's known is his mom. And, you know, especially after what happened to his mom in in episode 2, he probably has more of a hatred towards slavery at that point, because slavery is what kept her there in the first place. If it weren't for Watto, her and Anakin could have left with Qui-Gon.
Yeah.
But no, they were owned by somebody, and the Jedi couldn't stop it. So Anakin wants to prevent stuff like that from happening to other people. Anakin has a good heart. And Palpatine exploited that when he used things like, you know, Padme dying in childbirth. You know, he brought that up in like one of their last meetings before Mace Windu decided to try to go all crazy on Palpatine. And that right there was like the final straw for Anakin. He's like, I want to save what little happiness I have left in my life. I mean, she's all I got. I mean, besides his friends, of course, but I don't think that he considers them as much of or has as strong of a connection with the people around him as he did with his wife, because that is who he has loved since he had been brought from slavery.
I think also the fact that Palpatine's manipulation aside, he also lacked a lot of wisdom. The Jedi training failed him in providing him with the tools, because Obi-Wan, as great as Jedi as he is, he's not a good teacher. And you can see this in their interactions through the movies. He treats him like a mix between a son and a brother, but he's not keen on discipline. So,
Well,
and he can't be, because the Jedi are also failing him because they see him as a soldier. It's like, oh,
exactly.
we are losing this war, so we can take advantage of this kid who performs miracles on the battlefield. So we gotta cut him a lot of slack on these issues. And
Exactly.
he grew up thinking, I am all powerful. I should be able to say what goes and what doesn't.
Exactly. I mean, it's not even. I mean, I hate to blame Obi-Wan, but at the same time, there was probably. I mean, well, no. Let me put it this way. I loved a lot of what Anakin was talking about in Episode 3 about the Jedi way, because Anakin knew what the Jedi way was, you know.
Yeah.
And I think he takes a lot of inspiration from both Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon. But the war has changed the Jedi, which is what started to frustrate Anakin. Anakin was brought up during a time without war, though for a short time he had about 10 years of training before Episode 2. And I mean, I think he was 19 in that movie, and that's 10 years before the Clone Wars even started. So from age 19 to, I think, how old was he? 23 before he turned Darth Vader. Am I right or am I wrong?
I'm not sure.
Sounds about right.
But you're probably right.
I think the Clone Wars went on for only 4 years, but that 4 years changed what he had known about the Jedi, because the Jedi weren't soldiers; they were peacekeepers. But as Ahsoka said to Captain Rex at the end of the Clone Wars, all I've ever been is a soldier.
Yeah.
And so they're like, instead of training to be more in tune with the living force, as you know, Anakin was originally being taught by Obi-Wan. And Qui-Gon, you know, Qui-Gon was really in tune with the living force. I mean, that's why I think he is probably the greatest Jedi, at least in the movies. I'd still have to read some of the expanded universe to, you know, say in the expanded universe too. But as far as like being in tune with the Force, Qui-Gon is probably one of the strongest Jedi when it comes to the Force, in my opinion. Now, mind you, there might be some sort of media out there that disproves that, and I am completely open to that. But as far as my knowledge currently, that's what I believe. So I'm saying that right here now. And you can tell the differences, as I said earlier, in the way Qui-Gon handled situations. He did things like meditating. If you remember in the fight between him and Darth Maul, he just sat down and meditated on the Force, I guess, waiting for, you know, the next thing to happen, instead of sort of how Obi-Wan was standing there ready to fight. You know, he was like really ready, you know, had his lightsaber out and was just couldn't stay still, you know. Qui-Gon was just literally sitting there and just meditating. That's how Qui-Gon handled situations. He just got in tune with the Force and let the Force have its way.
Flew through him.
Yes, exactly. He let the Force flow through him. Now, he believed that the Force had a will, and whatever the Force's will, that's how it was. And that's why he fought so strongly for Anakin to be trained, even though he knew that the Jedi way at that time would not accept that. But he was just, you know, really in tune with the Force. And then here comes Obi-Wan, who I believe is still a lot like Qui-Gon in many ways, but he's also been plagued with this change that the war has brought onto the Jedi. And I'm not saying it's a bad change necessarily, but you have less time to train a Jedi in the ways of the Force when you're having to fight off a bunch of droids all over the galaxy. And combat training is probably more prevalent at that point.
Yeah.
So lightsaber training.
Exactly. And so when it comes to Anakin, who had been part of that time before the war, I want to say, was right to start losing faith in the council the way that he was, because he had seen what the Jedi were supposed to be, and then he saw what the war has changed them into, and he saw that a lot of the things that the Jedi were doing wasn't helping everybody. He wanted to help everybody. And I mean, if you think of, let's take a episode from the Clone Wars, for example, the episode where the bounty, I think it's called Bounty Hunters, where Anakin, Ahsoka, and Obi-Wan crash land on Felucia, and the Felucians are plagued by Hondo and his pirates because they want to take the Silum. Okay, well, Anakin and Ahsoka are like, yeah, we want to help, and then Obi-Wan's like, unfortunately, we can't, because it's a civil matter kind of thing. And Anakin, wants to train them to fight for themselves. So he is helping, but he would rather be out there fighting with them rather than sitting there and just training them, he would love to go take care of the problem. So would Ahsoka. I know Obi-Wan probably would, but Obi-Wan is more of the I'm going by the book, guys, like I do things by the book. And I mean, of course, there's nothing wrong with that. But Anakin really wanted to do what needed to be done. And certain scenes in the Clone Wars, such as him interrogating Poggle the Lesser, I think it was the episode where Ahsoka and Barriss were on the ship with the little worm things. I think he ended up interrogating Poggle to see how they can combat those things. And he tapped into the dark side using Force Choke, if I'm not mistaken, and just let his aggression out. That's not the Jedi way as of, before the war, which it never was the Jedi way necessarily, but he was seeing how people around him were getting hurt, and he wanted to stop it. So he tapped into the dark side, maybe not knowingly. He probably didn't willfully tap into the dark side, but he let his feelings for his friends get in the way, and he tapped into the dark side. But he overall performed a good act and saved his Padawan and Barriss Offee because of that. So when we talk about how Star Wars isn't about good or evil, we have plenty of examples as to why that statement is factually wrong. And we can back it up with all that proof, that like what I was mentioning earlier. So, I mean, it all comes back around. It sounds like we left that discussion, but now we're back to it.
It's poetry. It rhymes. It goes in cycles.
Yes. And I really like the way they portrayed Anakin's character. And I mean, even though I will agree, they probably didn't do the greatest with Anakin's character in the prequels. As of like episode 2, I think they did make him a little whiny. That's my personal opinion. I still love the movie though. I do love Anakin no matter what. I think episode 3's version of Anakin is by far one of the best versions. But the Clone Wars really add to his character. And I really like, and I mean, this might be an unpopular opinion too, but I did like what they did in the Ahsoka TV show with Anakin, especially in the World Between Worlds. But like I said, unpopular opinion maybe, but that was probably the closest thing to like a mix of the best parts of Clone Wars Anakin and episode 3 Anakin, in my opinion. And, if we could just get more of that and actually make Anakin look competent instead of trying to break him down, like a lot of Disney stuff tends to do with their male characters, we could probably get something pretty decent. They should stop trying to move away from those characters by destroying them, but rather conclude their story and then move on to something else. Because all Disney does is breaks down the main cast of one of the trilogies, and in doing
Kills
so, they're trying. Yeah, it kills them. And in doing so, they also try to promote their characters that they made or even take a minor character from, let's say Ahsoka. She's not necessarily a minor character, but she wasn't like the main character of the Clone Wars. There's many characters in the Clone Wars, though I do believe the Clone Wars was a lot about her. So I mean, never mind. We'll say she's the main character of the Clone Wars for certain reasons that I can explain later. But she still wasn't in the movies, but yet they're trying to portray her to be better than Anakin. Am I right when I say that with the Ahsoka show? Because she sort of thought of herself as like
that's why I
better.
hate that show. I mean, Ahsoka, I was expecting that show when it was first announced. She's one of my favorite characters, and I was like, yeah, this is going to be cool. But the more we saw into these Star Wars shows, the more it was evident that it wasn't going to be cool. Because they want to make these characters into something they are not. I mean,
exactly.
It had Sabine,
Girl bosses.
Yeah, it had Sabine, Hera, and Ahsoka. 3 of the best characters we got from Rebels. They made us hate them all. They made them into these girl bosses who listen to no one, who do no wrong. I mean, Sabine was always an activist. We knew this, but she wasn't annoying. I never disliked her in Rebels. Hera wasn't as smart as she was a super competent leader. The reason she led that squadron is because she was the one with the balls to do whatever it took.
Exactly. And, you know, the way they portrayed those characters, I didn't like how they portrayed Sabine. I'm fine with the actress. I think she did a good job in what she was doing, but the way the character was written just didn't feel right to me. It felt off. Ahsoka, she felt off, especially when she started jumping on the Anakin, like about his turn to the dark side. How did she say it? Something of, he said that it's part of her legacy or something like that, and she, you know, that's when she goes off on him about that, and he's like, "Is that what this is about?" I do love that part of the episode. Don't get me wrong, but the way that I feel like they were having her say that is that she regretted being, you know, taught by him because of what he had become and what she would be part of now that she was part of that, you know, or what she would do now that she was part of that. And I feel like instead of trying to break him down, she should have, you know, tried to say something else. I don't know. But it just felt like she thought of herself as better. And I could be wrong. I could be completely wrong, and I could be misinterpreting that. I don't really have much proof to back up how I feel about that.
They failed to capitalize on what had been done with her character in Rebels. In Rebels, when she finds out that Vader is Anakin, she wasn't disappointed or angry. She was heartbroken. That
Exactly.
was the real issue with that situation. And it should have been translated into the show. And they went in a completely different direction.
Exactly.
And that's because Filoni's a hack.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to agree, and it's sad. Because
but by this stage, it shouldn't be it should be absolutely 100% confirmed. Dave Filoni is a hack.
And it's just sad that a lot of things that are going on in Star Wars right now that we used to look up to Filoni because, you know, he was part of one of the greatest series in Star Wars. He was one of us. But as he's, you know, taken higher positions in Lucasfilm, it feels like he's become less of one of us and more of one of them.
He's been corrupted by the dark side.
Exactly.
And Darth Kennedy.
Because, I mean, and I'm not, like I said earlier about the sexualizing or over-sexualizing and stuff like that. I know they took the nose art off of the Marauder and the season 7 of the Clone Wars, you know. And I'm okay with that. And it's not necessarily a bad thing that they did that, you know, because that nose art did sexualize Padme. And it was a funny joke if you think about it, because that's his wife and he doesn't want that on there. But that's not that's not necessarily what I would call the worst offense, you know. But like when they changed, I can't stand these people. But when I watched one of the old clips of what we were about to get in season 7 of the Clone Wars before, you know, it had the full animation. It was one of the little animatic things, you know, where she crashes her speeder in Coruscant and, you know, ends up finding this guy. They replaced him completely with the Trace sisters, I think is what they were. Trace sisters? Or no, Mortez sisters or whatever. Oh, Marquez, yeah. They replaced him with those two. Now, those two were completely annoying. And it was all for the sake of just adding more.
Diversity.
Yes. And I find that to be forced. And they were, by far, that arc has just become one of my least favorite arcs in the Clone Wars. It's not my least favorite arc, but it is by far one of the least favorites. I want to say my least favorite arc in the Clone Wars has to probably be the Nomad Droids one, where it's just R2 and C-3PO going on this little weird quest. I don't hate it, but it just felt so out of place to me. I don't know. It just felt weird. But I'm not hating on anybody that likes that, of course. I mean, you like what you like. But that was my least favorite. And it's not because it's bad. It just felt out of place. I don't hate it. But with the Mortez sisters, I absolutely almost completely hate that. I mean, they could have been implemented in a more meaningful way, but instead...
No, because that would require talent.
Well, yeah. And that's... I mean, they obviously had talent at one time. You know, they obviously had it.
Keyword had.
Yeah. And you know what? They could still have it, but they're not using it. And, you know, now for some that aren't religious, you might not know this story, but like in the Christian Bible, there is a story about a man who hides his talents. Like God gives everybody talents, and he goes and takes his and hides it. Well, he loses it. Now, I'm just simplifying the story to get to the main point, but he hides his talent, and you know, when God is like, well, what'd you do with your talent? He's like, I buried it. Like, well, you lost it now. So instead of using it, you lost it. And that's what I'm seeing going on here. They all have a talent. And instead of using that talent, they're letting activism drive their creativity, which isn't creativity in the least. So that talent for being creative is slowly just going down the slope to the rock bottom. And it's got to the point now where there is no creativity. It's only, let's take the real world, throw a Star Wars coat of paint on it, and sell it to people, you know? And nobody wants to buy the real world that they are living in to immerse themselves into another version of the real world, you know?
Wait, hang on. You're saying they're not? That's crazy. But
yeah.
there's all this money we spent on consultants that say that what people want in their entertainment. They want to see the real world in entertainment. You know, I very much want to see the real world in high fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm wrong about that. You know, I mean, it's clear that everybody wants it. Let's look at the Acolyte season 2. Oh, wait. Wait a second. I don't think that one exists yet, or ever.
Or the Rings of Power season 2. Yeah, that's going.
Oh, Lord. I don't really see the Rings of Power lasting another season. I think this is going to be either the final straw or the next season will be the final straw.
I actually think I'm not entirely sure, but I think there needs to be 5 seasons. Contractually, it needs to be 5 seasons.
Well, I'm sure they had a contract for the Acolyte as well, but that didn't go very well.
No,
It didn't?
because the thing you need to remember about the Acolyte was that it wasn't something that was approved by the Disney board or the higher ups, and it was something that
The Kathleen Kennedy passion
Darth-
project. Basically.
Darth Kennedy just announced and really pushed in the media, and
And
it
then
would have
they had
looked bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
So there was no way in hell they were going to purchase 2 seasons of something that they were shanghaied into.
Exactly. And well, when it comes to the Rings of Power, if it don't bring in enough money, I feel like that could break the contract in general. Like they can be like, okay, we're going to lose more money doing this. We might as well just not do it. Then again, I could be wrong.
Probably.
Maybe. I mean, I could be wrong, but I want them to improve. See, the thing is, I don't want people to fail necessarily. I mean, I've seen so much going on with Star Wars now to the point where I do want them to fail, so maybe they'll actually learn. But Rings of Power has only went on for 2 seasons, and it's done bad so far. They can save themselves by retconning it and starting over. They can do that and then do the whatever 3 seasons, I think, the next 3 seasons, as something that was meant to, please the
Actually be entertaining.
Exactly. You, as a creative, you have all the power in the world to make what you want. Okay, and that don't mean that you should make what you want, of course, because if you want to make something terrible that nobody's going to purchase, then don't make that. If you're planning on making money from it, don't make it. But if you have this power to do something creative and you're making it to make money from it, you probably want to make it appealing to the people that are fans of it. And that is the whole problem with today's entertainment. They don't care about what people want to see. They care about what they want to tell because they feel like they have a story they want to tell. And usually,
but that sounds like white capitalist, communist, colonialist patriarchy.
Colonialist.
Yeah.
Well, I hate to say it, but it's not. I'm sorry to burst the bubble, but it's not. It's just people choosing what they want to invest in. That's it.
But my university professor that's never had a job out of university said that you're wrong. Stop it.
Well, I'm sorry, but I can't stop. This is sort of the train of thought that we're going to run down now, but we can't go off track with this one.
No, we need to stay on the track and stay on the track, because if it goes off the track, then it's capitalist.
See, the problem with today's creativity is that they're not going off the tracks. They're not going out there and risking anything, or making a risky project that they could feel like, oh, maybe nobody will like this, but this is new. Maybe people will show up for it. Who knows? I mean, Star Wars started off like that. Star Wars was a risky project. At that time, a lot of people didn't think that Star Wars would be as popular as it was, but it turns out in the end to be one of the biggest movie franchises of all time because George Lucas took a risk. That right there is creativity. But then you got these people who want to inject real life stuff into Star Wars where it has no place in. That's also a risk, but it's not a risk that's very creative. You're taking these so-called situations that you think need to be brought to awareness throwing it into something and turning it into an activist soapbox that you can stand on. And that doesn't work. That's not creativity. That's just being an activist and trying to put your point of view out there. You can do that without having to throw it into a piece of entertaining media that people try to immerse themselves into, especially if it doesn't fit with that media. But a lot of creativity has been lost over the years. And I mean, as you can tell, like more and more franchises like Star Wars, like Terminator, like what was it called? Alien. I don't know why that left me. They're still going because they can't think of anything new. So they're just doing more movies to the main series. A lot of them aren't turning out so good. I've not watched Alien, so I don't know how the new one has went. I've not really kept up with it that much. But they can't come up with a completely new franchise. They have to come up with a new movie to add to a pre-existing one, because guess what? It's already got the fame and the fandom that can support it. So it's sort of easy to make money off of something that's already established. It's not easy to make something famous. You know, you got to work at that. I mean, Star Wars is the perfect example, the way it started out. And I already explained that, so I don't have to explain it again, but that was a risk, and it paid off for George Lucas. It paid off. And, you know, I'm sure most of these franchises that were created were all sort of just creative risks in one way or another, because they were all original. You didn't know if people would like it, but here we are. There's still people today supporting Star Wars, less than there used to be, but still people supporting it because it's Star Wars. And it's the creativity that's
also half the problem.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
because there are people that
more and more. Yes, they are part of the problem if they will eat the slop, because it has a Star Wars logo on it. And the sad thing is, I've not felt any excitement for Star Wars, like anything announced at all, since the Acolyte. And I mean, I'm late to the boycotting Star Wars party, and I'm not necessarily saying I'm boycotting Star Wars, but I found myself driven back to the time before Disney owned it, because a lot of the expanded universe that I've read is 10 times more entertaining than anything that Disney has put out so far. And that's just the books. Currently, I'm collecting the Legacy of the Force series and the New Jedi Order series, because I want to read those. I'm currently reading the Jedi Academy series. I never used to be a
good choice.
book reader. I know. I'm trying to read like all of them in order, you know, trying to get the expanded universe storyline in order. So I've already read the Thrawn series. I think the next, and I think it's like Dark Jet? No, what is that one called? The one where Luke turns to the dark side briefly. Dark Empire, I think is what it's called. I read that, and now I'm on to Jedi Academy, because I realized when I started reading Jedi Academy that it mentioned stuff that I didn't know about. So I went to look up and see what came before, and that was Dark Empire. I'll admit, I'm not the biggest fan of Dark Empire. I think The Last Jedi got a lot of inspiration from Dark Empire, and that's why I also don't like The Last Jedi too. And you would probably understand it if you read it. Then again, maybe that's just my weird interpretation, and I don't even know if they tried to get inspiration from it. Or not The Last Jedi. What did I say that for? The Rise of Skywalker, where Palpatine comes back and all that. You know, I think it did get some inspiration from that. But
somehow.
I didn't like it too much. Yeah, somehow. But I wasn't a huge fan of it, but I liked it better the way they did it, because it still felt, it felt jarring, because after coming off of the Thrawn trilogy and seeing how the New Republic had a firmer hold on the galaxy, and then all of a sudden here we are with in Dark Empire with the remnants of the Empire all attacking Coruscant, and somehow Palpatine is back again. But I think they did a better job of explaining it in this book or I think it's actually a comic series. I know I said I read it. Actually, I listened to it. I listened to the entire thing. They had like an audio version of it. It's an official one too, so I didn't just look up something random. I do know the story, but
Sure.
it's been a while since I've listened to it. It had Billy D. Williams voicing Lando, so I know it's official. Okay. But I mean, it wasn't bad per se. I just didn't like the idea of Palpatine returning in such a jarring manner, and that is sort of the same issue I have with the Rise of Skywalker. I didn't mean to say Last Jedi earlier. Rise of Skywalker. It's just jarring, and they both fall under that umbrella. Even though that's part of the EU, I still don't necessarily like it. I don't hate it like I hate the Rise of Skywalker, but I don't necessarily like it. That doesn't mean that everything in the EU is perfect, you know, but I have went back to the EU because it actually feels like it has more heart and soul. You know, it feels more connected to the universe than what we're getting now. Because what we're getting now,
Because it does and is.
Yeah, exactly. Just because, see, that's the thing about art as well. Like, you may not particularly like a certain artist's like picture that they painted, but that hard work in painting that, you know, you can't deny the hard work they put into it, and probably the heart and soul they put into their painting. You can't necessarily hate the painting for that. You can just say it's not your style. But then when you come to like look at AI generated art, it may look decent if you put in the right stuff, but it doesn't look like it has any heart or soul put into it. It just looks like a procedurally generated image. And I mean, of course, that's sort of what it is, but you can tell the differences in AI art and actual art. Some people put their actual work into it, while others are just generating using words. And there's a different feel behind that art. And maybe I'm speaking as an artist myself, but I can tell the difference.
Yeah, and I mean, everyone can tell the difference between art and generated art. You know, art generally, you know, hands have 5 fingers. In generated art, it has 10.
Yeah, true. But I have seen some really good AI generated art, and I'm not saying necessarily there's anything completely wrong with it. If you're taking credit for it as a piece that you created and saying that this is my art, yeah, there's something wrong there. But in my opinion, if you use AI generated art as reference material for making something you want to make, that I think is perfectly fine, because you're not taking credit for other people's work. You're using that to help like inspire you to make something. So I don't like see AI generated art as the worst thing possible, but I can see so many very bad things that can be done with it. And personally, even though I can see maybe a little good coming from it, I'd still rather it never be a thing, because it's stealing other people's art.
Hey, I think AI is highly bad, because, you know, if we didn't have it, Elon Musk and Donald Trump.
You're cutting up quite a bit, but I heard Elon Musk and Donald Trump.
Damaging to staying alive.
Yeah. But there's no soul behind it. It's like there's nothing behind it except just
Skynet begs to differ.
No, yeah. It's you're true. They do look like 2 puppets being dangled.
Oh gosh.
But it does look funny.
Yeah. But that's the problem I have with I want to say Disney Star Wars is like the AI variant of Star Wars. You know? It's like it looks like Star Wars, but it doesn't feel like Star Wars, because it looks like it's been generated by an AI. That's the best way I can explain Disney Star Wars currently. Is the AI version
with how some people in Lucasfilm act, it is being generated by AI because they're all NPCs.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, and they probably have used AI in Star Wars. I mean, they for sure used it in what is it called, Secret Invasion, with their intro and I think outro, or is it just their outro? I don't know. It's one or the other, or both. But they used AI art in that intro or outro, or like I said, both. It could be both. When they could have hired an actual artist to make that art instead. But no, they decided to go the cheap route and use AI. And that AI is probably stealing art from other people because it has to have something to reference off of to be able to make what it makes. So somebody had to have done it, but it wasn't somebody they hired. And that's where we're at today.
Yeah, exactly.
And I just can't stand the direction that everything has went. Like I said, it's like the AI variant of Star Wars, and that's it. If AI decided to make Star Wars,
no, actually, no. AI getting Star Wars would be far better than what Disney's produced.
Yes.
Okay, well, yeah.
No, I mean, I can't. Who did it? But they actually.
They actually what?
Programs. I can't remember which one.
Oh.
You know, kind of did sort of do episode 7, but better. And what it came out with was so much better than what Disney produced. So, you know, maybe Disney Lucasfilm needs AI to actually write stuff better than what's coming out now.
See, you're talking about artificial intelligence. I'm talking about activist intelligence.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Activist intelligence.
Yeah.
That's what's making Star Wars now. That's the AI that's doing it. And it's not doing a good job.
But isn't that a contradiction in itself?
What about a contradiction?
Yeah, because activists and intelligence, I mean...
Oh, that is a... Okay.
Yeah, it's an oxymoron.
There can be good activists that have a good goal, but these activists aren't those. So, I guess we can put those in that category of the unintelligent. Because the way I see it, if you were intelligent, you would know that a lot of the things such as, you know, racism and sexism isn't as prevalent as it used to be. Sure, there are things like that still going on today, and whoever is doing that is stupid. I mean, I don't know why you would be that way in 2024, but okay, you do you, I guess. Just become a hateful person all over the world.
No, I mean, you know, you got to remember, racism's very profitable. Look at the BLM leaders and their multi-million-dollar mansions.
Exactly. And that's why I don't have faith in those types of activist groups. And I'm not saying that Black lives don't matter, because that's completely not the case. And if anybody knows me, especially if they heard what I said earlier, where you can be black or white or whatever, and I'd still treat you with respect, it don't matter. But it's unfortunate I have to say that, you know, because if I said anything against Black Lives Matter, the movement, then I'm considered racist. But I don't have that mentality of hating black people, nor wanting to oppress them. And as a white guy, I feel that I shouldn't have to say this, because it should be common knowledge nowadays that we don't want slavery. But I guess as a white guy, I should say that I denounce what the white people of however long ago, I denounced their acts of slavery against the blacks. But that's it's sad that I have to say that because it should be common knowledge.
Well, actually, no, sorry, you shouldn't have to say that. Because the simple fact of the matter is that you don't hear African Americans or Africans denouncing their involvement in slavery.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So why should you?
They sold their own people. They were selling their own people to us. They were part of the problem. And it's not even just black people. Why aren't Chinese people?
That's the mistake. That's the mistake that a lot of slavery? Yeah, that's the mistake that a lot of people make when they're talking about slavery.
Yeah, and they forget
is that they think that the white man came down at they all believe that the white man just came down, kidnapped a whole lot of black people and sent them overseas. No, exactly. Because that would be expensive. It's just much cheaper just buying it from the locals. And the locals are more than happy to supply, because of all the money and the finances that the white people were bringing down.
Yeah, and who's really
slavery was a human. Before you get to that, slavery was a human problem, not a white problem.
Exactly. I'll admit, white people were probably more prevalent in the world. They were the ones going around conquering more. Sure, I get that, but it's still a human problem because we're not the only ones that partook in it. But yet here we are getting all the blame for it. Who's really the bad guy? The person that sold their own people for slavery, or the ones buying it? I mean, yeah, both sides are bad, but who's worse? And it's really hard to say that. It's really hard to say who's worse. And I'm not trying to put blame on black people, but you got to be messed up to sell your own kind.
To answer your first question, who is really the bad guy? They are. I mean, in this case, you're saying you denounce. You don't need to denounce shit because you didn't do anything.
Exactly. I wasn't there.
Bad guy is the one doing bad things.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, you aren't.
I've never once wanted to own a slave. Never once. I never had that apparent urge that we white people are supposed to get towards black people, I guess. I must be one of the weird ones if that's a common urge that we get to enslave others, to oppress others, I mean, if that were the case, wouldn't I be doing that to you, Chrono? Wouldn't I be like putting you down right here and now?
You do all the time.
You're not supposed to say that on stream. You're not supposed to say that on stream. What's wrong with you? I'll deal with you later. Anyways, I'm not making myself look any better by going along with the joke.
No.
Okay.
But if people don't understand it's a joke, it's a them problem, not your problem.
Very true. By the way, we're not racist, just so you know. For those that have to be told, for others that actually can sort of tell that we're just friends and we're making funny jokes with each other for the sake of just making funny jokes, you're smart, and I'm glad you exist. Unfortunately, there ain't many.
Yeah, I bet back in the rice fields they used to tell them the same thing.
Yeah, maybe. But listen, like, black people weren't the only ones enslaved either. The Chinese were enslaved down here in America too. A lot of them were out like making rails for the railroads and stuff like that. Just
and the Irish. Don't forget the Irish.
Yeah, the Irish too. Like there's so many. Who all is complaining though? It's not the Chinese.
So
it's not the Irish.
Does that mean that the trains should be abolished?
Yeah, like why are the Chinese not coming over here and saying, "Hey, we help build your trains or help build your country"? Because we used trains for expansion. Getting goods from one place to another, all that kind of stuff. We were expanding using these technologies and these people to help make that possible. But where are they at? They're not complaining about it, and I'm not trying to put down any Black person's struggles, because some may actually feel oppressed. Maybe they are oppressed by somebody. I don't know. I just don't think it's as common as what the world is trying to make it out to be.
No, they are oppressed by themselves.
I knew that's what you were. And you're right. The ones that say they're oppressed, they actually believe it. And guess who's telling them they're oppressed? It's either themselves or people like them. They are saying it because they want to feel like a victim of something, so they can act like they're making some sort of meaningful change in the world.
The funny thing is, the ones telling them those things are quite liberal.
Yeah. And I mean, it's sad that we're at this point. And it's sad that we have to have discussions about this. This shouldn't even be a discussion. If I know this is not a perfect world, but in a perfect world where everybody understood that there's no such thing as, or there should be no such thing as racism, in a perfect world, we would all be thinking a lot like Martin Luther King, or anybody who's got at least a bit of human decency, because no human should want to enslave or harm another human. But here we are in today's society where apparently racism is the big thing, but I feel like just aggression towards each other is more prevalent than racism towards each other. I feel like just people having hatred built up in their hearts for other people, not necessarily because of their skin color, but because they just have a hatred for other people who may, let's say, have it better, or they got something that you wanted but you didn't get.
It's a narcissism problem.
Yes. And there's a lot of that in this world.
It's a problem of being told that childhood, oh, you're special, you're very, very special, you're very special, and all this other crap, and then the real world smacks you in the face.
Mm-hmm.
You're just another cog machine.
Yeah.
But
or you're shown to not be special in some way, because the thing is that on a universal scale, yes, we're all very, very special because we're all completely unique from everyone else. But on a human level, a special person is entity.
Yep.
And for 99% of the human population, as special as a grain of sand.
And that's the sad thing, is that grains of sand, they all basically look alike. They all do the same thing. They just sit there, they have one particular purpose, just to be there. But that
also the thing
of sand that does anything more special than the other.
Yeah, but I mean, does that stop you from being useful? Does that stop you from having a purpose? And the answer is no. For some,
see, but with sand, it can have a purpose other than just sitting there, and that goes for people too. Sand is used to make glass, and there's like tons of like beautiful glass sculptures that were made. That was made from sand. There's like it's not even just like glass sculptures, but windows. Useful
know if
items,
that's
things.
yeah. I just don't know. I don't. Analogy is sort of yes, get thrown into the fire and fuse.
Well, if you think about it, getting thrown into the
Yes,
fire.
you're only used to be thrown into the fire
Well, if you want
and made useful.
If you want to make it more philosophical, the fire can represent like what your struggles of trying to get to where you want to be.
That's actually a very good analogy for transition, because it's like you hate being a useless grain of sand. Okay, go into the fire and turn yourself into beautiful glass.
There we go.
Yeah, no, actually, that kind of works. Yeah.
Exactly. There you go.
Yeah.
But these people don't want to throw themselves through the fire. They're like we all say, they're snowflakes. They melt at just even the slightest temperature change.
But that's because I'm special and all the things. I'm special.
And that's the problem that we got with society, is that they all want to be special, but they're not doing anything to be special. They want everybody to acknowledge them as special without doing anything remarkable. It's that, or they feel like they're a certain way, or they think they're a certain thing, or whatever, and they demand that you respect that and acknowledge that, even though they're not that. And I'm not trying to sound homophobic, though it does sound like it. It does sound like I am, but I respect all those people. Don't get me wrong, I do. But if you are trying to force me to acknowledge you as that way in such a rude manner, you can bet anything in the world I'm not going to respect that. Because if you want respect from me, you got to give respect to me. I'm very easy to get along with, I promise. But you shouldn't demand respect when you haven't earned it. And really, being respectful in general should be second nature to us. It really should be second nature to human beings in general. That you treat somebody good, you get something good out of it. It's not even, it's barely even kindergarten. It's like
you're an oppressor. But you're an oppressor, so
I mean,
because you're oppressing me.
I mean, I am what? So I'm naturally an oppressor, of course. But I have no hatred towards people who believe that they are the opposite gender or some sort of sexual orientation. Do I necessarily go along with that stuff? Not necessarily. I only believe in two genders myself, but I know people who are attracted to men when they are men. And that particular person, I won't name names, but that particular person is one of my favorite coworkers I'd ever worked with. And by far, he is probably one of the hardest working ones there too, or he was before he left and went to a better job. But he was one of my favorite people to work with. Like, I didn't want to work with much of anybody else because he was awesome. He was nice. He was respectful. He didn't demand that I adhere to anything that he believes in, nor did he shove it in my face. He simply was gay, and that is it. It wasn't his personality trait. He just was a gay man who had many deeper things to him rather than just being gay, which is unfortunately a plague amongst a lot of people nowadays, is that their orientation is their personality. I want to know you for more than just your orientation. You don't have to have they them earrings with they them nose rings and they them shirts with they them socks to tell me that you're a they them. Okay? You don't need that in your bio to tell me that you're a they them. You could just be a person.
That's yeah.
And have
the biggest mistake.
It is. Sure, be proud of what you say you are, but guess
No,
what?
no, no. The biggest mistake that people make in this sort of area is that is that they're so focused on the labels
But yeah, they don't want
when yeah, but no, it's labels are there for descriptors. They're not there as your personality, as your identity. Your identity is whatever your name is.
exactly.
Yeah, it's
So it's your identity is John. It's not, oh, I identify as XYZ. No, you identify as I've forgotten where I was going with that statement. But yeah, it's back to front. It is essentially back to front. You don't identify as your labels. You identify use labels to shorthand descript who you are. So I'm X, I'm A, sorry, I'm A, I B, I'm C. You now, you can filter that into your stereotypes to have somewhat of an amalgamation of who John is.
Mm-hmm.
But you identify as John, not as...
And that's what I see as most of the problem. Yeah, that's what I see as most of the problem nowadays. I've known people, not just the one guy I was talking about, I've known other ones too that I'm perfectly okay with being near because they are good people. I've been around a lot of good ones. And they're no different than me, except they have a different belief system than I do. They're people too. But
it's actually really funny.
What?
You find that all of your friends are the alphabet mafia.
No, I didn't necessarily say that. I have plenty of different friends. I have
No. What I'm saying is that your gay co-worker and all that type of situation will most likely from the LGBT alphabet mafia.
That they are. You cut out. I can't. I couldn't hear that part.
God.
I'm sorry.
Okay. What I'm saying is, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So what I'm saying is that your friends have probably been excluded from the LGBT community because it is so ideologically captured that if you just want to be gay and as a normal gay person that doesn't have to want to deal with any of that stuff, you are the bad person and you are excluded. There is actually two words that I could use to help describe this, but I'm not sure if I want to say that on the street. It's house, and I don't think I need to have the second word stated.
Oh gosh. We can say that.
I'm hoping everyone gets the point. I'm hoping everyone gets the point when I'm saying house, second word.
Yes. Yeah. But that's the thing about it. They didn't make that their whole personality. They just were who they were. And whether I agree with the way they live or not, that's irrelevant. They were still a respectful person to me, so I'm going to treat them with just as much respect as they gave me. That's the whole point of being a good person.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a lot of gay and bi friends for someone who's but every single one of them has said to me, oh, I can't go to the LGBT mafia events because I don't gay right.
And that's crazy how like those types of people are also policing their own people into acting a certain way because they identify a certain way. Why not just live and let live? You know, what happened to that?
Yeah.
Because they live by a cult mentality. They need to all think the same, or otherwise they can't stand dissenting opinion.
Yeah. But anyways, we focused on that topic.
Jade, I think we need to change the title of this. I think we need to change the title of this stream to, sort of.
Humans are humans, no matter how small.
I don't. The Force Collective Political.
Yes, Force Collective Political. See, no, this is a byproduct. This is a byproduct right here of what entertainment has brought us to, where you can't talk about entertainment without a political discussion. And it's sad. It is very sad because when I started this channel, all I wanted to talk about was Star Wars. I remember when I did my first stream, I come up with a bunch of topics that were related to Star Wars stuff, wanted to discuss it with everybody, get ideas from what everybody thought about this, or this. I even, I did try a lot of different things back then, like Star Wars philosophies, I think, where you take an episode of the Clone Wars and try to apply it to real life. Like I did with the Umbara arc, which I think by far, now I'm not bragging, but I think that was one of my best posts I ever put on Twitter at the time. And because it was so true, but I did so many things that just wanted to talk about Star Wars. But here we are talking about, what people identify as, because that's all that's shoved in their face, or whether somebody's racist or not, because that's all that's shoved in their face. Because if you don't like this, you're racist, you're sexist, you're a bigot, homophobe, whatever. I don't know. There's a lot of istinphobe names.
The sad thing is we're talking about this because this is what Star Wars has become.
Exactly. Yep. And I don't think, look, if they didn't shove this in our faces and say, hey, if you don't like this, you're this, I don't think there would be as much of a pushback against what has been currently made. Because, without that activism, it probably would have had more thought put behind it, a lot more creativity, all that kind of stuff, like we were talking about. All this comes together, and like we come full circle here.
But if they don't call you a racist, how can they defend themselves from their crappy shows?
By making good ones and actually using the God-given talent they've been given or been working on. I mean, we all have the ability to become talented in many different things.
Hey,
and
that's very unfair. Why are you asking them to be talented?
I mean,
because that's being oppressive. You're being oppressive, Shade.
I mean, I guess that mentality is a thing nowadays, where you just ask them to get good, and that's oppression. No,
yeah, because that's work, and what if they can't do work?
Well, see, a lot of the best things made in life were made by people that worked hard to make that. And a lot of the worst things in life are just the most cheapest, laziest works of art that could ever be made. And they can't even really be considered works of art, because art is usually something beautiful or something that somebody has put a lot of heart and soul into, a lot of thought into, not just throwing a toilet, like a broken toilet, into an art museum and saying, this is what that means.
Andy Warhol would disagree.
Hey, I personally like Leonardo da Vinci's art quite a bit.
Well, that's apples and oranges.
Yeah, I know. But it's still like you're putting work behind something and calling it art. But there's a point where it gets ridiculous, where you leave a blank piece of paper on the wall and say this represents emptiness, and people are like, "Oh yes, look at that piece of art! Oh my lord, I want to pay $1 million for that." You know, like no.
It's so deep. It's so deep, and it really touches my soul. Yes, we need to stare at it for hours.
Let me see if I can pay this man to make me one of those. Oh, yes. Oh, me and all my rich friends. Anyways.
And then you see the artist just go to a box of paper and just pulls out a sheet of paper. Yes, here it is. Here, I've just made this for you. There you go. Thank you for your $1 million.
I remember when art was actual works of art and not just an object thrown on a wall. And that's what Star Wars is right now. It's just an object thrown on the wall. It used to have thought put behind it. It used to have soul. It used to have people that actually were passionate about it, working on it. Now it's just something thrown on the wall because AI as an activist intelligence, which is, I guess, what is it, an oxymoron? Isn't that what that means? I could be wrong. Maybe my English is bad. I'm probably bad at English. If there's a proper term for it, correct me. But or is it a juxtaposition? I don't know. Dang it. I need to go back to school. Anyways, but Star Wars is
just not an American school.
It's just maybe not an American school. Clearly, it seems like it's starting to fail me.
You're to your education system.
I've been graduated for what, 10 years now. I think I'm allowed to go a little rusty on some of it.
I would say, come down to I would say, come down to an Australian university, but they're slowly being infected by the woke mind virus. So,
well,
they're not as far gone as the Americans.
We really needed Commander Tano for this discussion because she loves saying how stupid Americans are.
I know, right? I think she deep down wishes she was an Australian. I think deep down she does. Me personally, I like what America used to be. I'm not so sure about what it is now. But I personally identify myself as somebody who really relates to how it used to be and how, America used to be proud of being what it was, a free place for people to be what they want to be and do what they want to do. But now you can't really be what you want to be, even though that's sort of the goal that a lot of these people that tell you can be what you want to be go for. But they also tell you that, no, you can't be this because that's oppressive to us, like we're becoming less and less free, and we're doing it to ourselves. That's the problem. We're doing it to ourselves. So I don't know. We can chalk up this discussion to a political Star Wars talk, but coming back full circle here, like that's the whole reason why I started the channel was to talk about Star Wars. But here we are just talking about politics because that's all that we get in our entertainment. It's not even just Star Wars. Marvel went for it for a while, and I was about to mention this earlier, but let me finish this point first. But a lot of franchises have went to like lecturing us about what we should enjoy and what we shouldn't, what should be right and what shouldn't be. They're policing our thoughts because these activists have power and they don't need the power because these people are the sickness that's infecting a lot of the people here today, which is also sort of causing us to be less free because we can't think freely. Apparently, we can't have opinions, but they can because they align with the right opinions, which is subjective you know. But apparently it's not. It's supposed to be objective in their mind. But I will say, as of recent, there has been a slight shift in the way entertainment has been handling things. Something that I'm sort of intrigued about myself. And we can say, starting off with how I think I started this point earlier when we were talking about not just the entertainment industry when it comes to movies, but when it comes to games. And I said Dustborn and Concord and Star Wars Outlaws. Those three games right now, like Concord is fully shut down after, I think, what, 11 to 13 days, somewhere in there.
12 days.
12 days, okay. So it shut down
12
after 12
days.
Dustborn, it was a government-funded project.
Yeah, Concord now holds the record for the fastest video game fail in history.
I know. And that I never thought I'd live to see something so catastrophic. I thought Cyberpunk was the biggest game failure of all time. No, this one is by far the biggest. And the thing is about Cyberpunk, it bounced back.
It bounced back.
And I love that game. It's a wonderful game.
It's a great game.
I'll admit though, when I first played it, when it first came out, I was disappointed. It was glitchy. It didn't feel great to play. It just felt weird, and there's just too many glitches. You know, the story was interesting, but the gameplay and everything was just off. But after they fixed it, after they did all that, it's become such a wonderful game. And it's insane how they bounced back from almost nothing, because they went through a whole lot after they stopped orders for that game and everything. They went through a whole lot. But here we are with games nowadays like Concord and Dustborn, who aren't going to get that bounce back that they think they're going to get, especially Concord, because I think Concord is going to try to bounce back because they said something in their post that they made. But there ain't no way it's going to.
Well, they might be switching to a free-to-play model.
It's still not going to bounce back the way they want it to. And honestly, if anybody goes on it for the free-to-play stuff, I feel like that's just as bad as supporting it financially, because that game was already a failure to entertainment in general. It's another one of those hero shooters, but it is also a very woke game. And I don't usually like using the word woke because it feels like it's been very unsaturated or overly saturated throughout, YouTube and stuff like that nowadays. But it is one of those games. And I like I said, I don't like using that word, but when I do use that word, it means something for me, because I see it and a lot of other people see it. And the same goes for the Acolyte. But as I was mentioning, there has been a shift in the way people are taking entertainment. The Acolyte was canceled. Marvel come out with Deadpool and versus Wolverine. I think it's Deadpool versus Wolverine, or is it Deadpool and Wolverine? I can't remember. And Wolverine. Okay. Yeah, Deadpool and Wolverine, which succeeded massively. Inside Out 2. I don't know if we talked about this last time that we streamed. I know I'd watched it recently before that stream, but that movie didn't have any of that woke stuff in it. But yet here we are. Like, it was a good movie. I enjoyed it. I didn't find anything wrong with it. It felt like a movie made to, I guess, further the world that they had created originally. It wasn't trash. And then now we got the Russo brothers coming back to Marvel, which that could be a good thing, could be a bad thing, but they are moving away from those previous people doing it before, which might be, at least something, Marvel's shifting their direction, and they brought Robert Downey Jr. back as Dr. Doom. Now, that's a debatable subject there, whether you like that or not. I'm personally intrigued by it, but I'm not going to say that you're wrong for thinking it's a bad idea too. But I'm just waiting to see the execution. But there's been a shift. People aren't falling for all this stuff as they used to. The failures of a lot of shows and movies like The Acolyte, Rings of Power, Star Wars Outlaws, Dustborn, Concord, all those failures that they're pushing out right now, people aren't buying it. They're not getting into it. People are tired of it, which is why I think a lot of stuff is shifting. And I feel like the shift is going to continue on. So
have you heard anything about Beetlejuice?
I've not. I've wanted to. I've stayed away from it for two reasons. One, I want to watch it, and two, I haven't watched the first one, so I need to watch that one before I watch.
Oh
the
God,
second.
really? You haven't
Really?
watched Beetlejuice?
I
Oh.
haven't. Okay? I'm sorry. I know. I'm a weirdo, but I do want to watch it. I really do. I wanted to watch it for a while. I've never. I don't know. I never got into it, but I've never watched it. So, knowing how popular it is and how good I heard it is, I do want to watch it, especially since they're coming out with a new one.
But yeah, no, Beetlejuice is also along the lines of like sort of Deadpool and Wolverine, where it's just this is entertainment. It's very much along the same lines as Ghostbusters 3, not 2016.
That one exists. What are we talking about? The 2016 Ghostbusters? There was no Ghostbusters back then. I just remember like some.
Oh yeah, no, sorry. There was something about ghost fighting, and there were girls. I misspoke.
Yeah, that's not Ghostbusters. I don't know what you're talking about.
No.
Yeah. But
yeah, it's Beetlejuice is very much along the lines of Ghostbusters 3. It's sort of respecting and building on the sequel. On the previous iterations.
And another good example of that is also Cobra Kai. Now, mind you, I haven't watched Cobra Kai myself, but everybody that I've ever talked to or watched, or just anybody that ever talks about it, says that it is incredibly good. It is faithful to the source material. It doesn't deviate too much, and it's just a really good continuation to that story. And why can't we have entertainment like that? Where it actually meaningfully continues a story that people are very passionate about, instead of going out like hiring a random director that has their own ideas of what something should be and disrespects everything because they want a therapy session for themselves.
because you have accountants in charge, not actually creatives.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's the problem. People used to be creative in Hollywood. People used to actually value creativity, but we're at this point now where creativity is just dead and all they care about is financial success.
Money.
Is find a established franchise, like I mentioned earlier, and add to it because it has an established fan base. So most likely, if you slap the name of that franchise on whatever you make, it's going to make a lot of money. But soon after you do that and you start losing the faith of those people that you are supposedly trying to please, less of them are going to show up for the next one. I mean, just look at the sequel trilogy. Like, a lot of people showed up for episode 7. I showed up for episode 7 100%. I was excited. I was heavily on board. And I even liked the movie when a lot of people didn't. I actually liked it. I thought it may not be my favorite Star Wars movie in the entire franchise, but it could be a meaningful way to start a trilogy. And I mean, it's just the first movie. You could have fixed any issues with that first movie in the next 2 movies, but no. Instead, they keep going downhill. So there was less people watching the second movie. And then by the time The Rise of Skywalker came, there was less people watching that one. And let's not even talk about what happened with Solo, because right after The Last Jedi, Solo
lost money.
And that's you lost the good faith of most of the dedicated people that have been there since the 70s. And I'm not from the 70s, but I've loved every part of Star Wars. And I tried so hard to love every part of Disney Star Wars. I didn't want to hate The Last Jedi as much as I tried to blind myself to the issues. Finally, I woke up to it and I was like, look, I can't fool myself anymore. This is bad. This is bad. This is bad. This is bad. And here I am now. You know, I've tried to defend a lot of things in the current Star Wars projects, but honestly, I'm to the point now where I can't defend anything because I don't consider any of the new stuff canon to Star Wars. If I wanted to take anything from Disney Star Wars at all, it would be The Mandalorian seasons 1 and 2. I would consider them canon in a heartbeat because they were actually good. And the person behind it, Jon Favreau, seemed like he actually cared about the material. Now, whether that's true or not, who knows? But it felt like it, so I believe that's how it was. And then when season 3 rolled around, you can tell there was a shift in how that was. And I don't know. It's a lot has changed over the years. I've changed, and honestly, I never thought that I would get to a point where I was not excited for a Star Wars game to come out or a Star Wars movie or show. When Star Wars Outlaws was announced originally, I was okay with it. I was like, oh yeah, that's pretty cool. But ever since the recent failure of the Acolyte, and even though I'm not like a hater of Tales of the Empire. Tales of the Empire probably wasn't their greatest project, but it wasn't the worst. I liked it for the most part, but there's a few things that
I haven't even seen it.
Well, see, that's the problem with a lot of people now is that they are indifferent. They don't care about Star Wars to the point where they don't want to see it anymore, and that's where I'm getting. And I want to say. One of the biggest Star Wars fans around. I want to say that, but I know I'm probably not the biggest one. But Star Wars has been my life since I was just a little boy. My first interaction with Star Wars in general, my first interaction was Lego Star Wars, the game. That pulled me into watching the prequel trilogy, and that pulled me into watching the original trilogy. And I gotta thank my cousin for this because if he didn't introduce me to Lego Star Wars on the old, I think he was playing it on the GameCube as well. I was playing it on the Nintendo GameCube. That was my life back then. I played Lego Star Wars every single day. You know, that was my life. I loved it. And now I can't bring myself to be excited. I was excited for the new Lego Star Wars, but it felt hollow, in my opinion. It felt hollow. And with anything else new that comes out with Star Wars, it feels hollow.
Actually, have you heard about the new Lego Star Wars? No, the new Lego Star Wars. I don't know if it's a movie or a show or that might be like going back in time.
I heard about that. And I sort of want to see that just even though it's like a Lego thing. I heard a little bit about that, and I heard that it sort of talks about some of what we have criticized in it. But I don't know much about it because I haven't like watched a lot about whatever that is. But I want to see whatever that is. And only because I want to know if I'm being proved right or wrong about that. Like, are they really trying to right their wrongs, or are they just doing that, you know? And
is it bait or are they actually traveling in that direction?
You see, with the way things have been shifting lately, it wouldn't surprise me if they actually did try to right their wrongs. But I don't feel like it'd be a permanent or a heartfelt apology kind of thing, if you know what I mean. I feel like once they start pulling you back in, then they'll mess it up again. But that's just the mentality that a lot of people like me right now have, that Disney can't seem to do anything right with Star Wars. But they are, if I am correct, they are trying to correct course with Marvel. So it wouldn't be too far to assume that they might also try to do that with Star Wars, especially it being as big as it is. But I think a lot of the goodwill from the people that used to really, truly love Star Wars and be there for every single Star Wars event, such as a new movie or a game, I think all those people are mainly gone. And it would take
Yeah.
a miracle to bring that back.
Yep.
I know I've said a lot today. I've said
Yeah, you have. You've really needed to get stuff off your chest, haven't you?
It's been a very, very long few months. I think how long has it been since the last stream? I don't know. It's been a long time. And there's been so much I've wanted to say. And I'm glad that I've spent the first part of it, though, talking a little bit about James Earl Jones because, legendary voice actor, very, very cool person. He's gone. But he was one of probably the least, not least, probably one of the only things that wasn't really corrupted by Disney Star Wars.
No.
They didn't corrupt James Earl Jones. James Earl Jones didn't come out saying that he felt like somebody was being racist against him or anything like that.
Well, mainly because if someone was racist to him, he would the person that would be racist to him should start running because he would be chased by a whole lot of people.
Exactly. And, like I said, I feel like racism isn't as big as what they say it is because if that's the case, why would there be a whole bunch of people chasing after that one guy?
Yeah.
Well, I know I've said a lot, and I probably didn't give you guys a lot of time to talk. So if you have anything to say before we end the stream, you have every chance now to say what you need to say.
Most of the stuff I want to say is more topical to certain projects, so I'll just wait for those streams.
Okay. And what about you, Cronin? You got anything to say before I end the stream?
Well, no, just that it's sad that we end up talking about everything else surrounding Star Wars and the reasons why it sucks instead of it being actually cool.
Yeah.
But that's the current state of the franchise, and yeah, we are all pretty much checked out.
Yeah. I'm not usually an apathetic person at all, but I've became apathetic when it comes to Star Wars.
I'm so apathetic at this present moment. I'm still stuck on episode 2 of Bad Batch.
we need to finally have our Bad Batch season 3 discussion.
No, we don't.
I personally liked season 3 because it felt like it stayed on topic.
Yeah, well, that's the problem. That should have been season 2.
Yes,
it should have been
100%.
Well, next, what day did I say? The 16th. If that don't change, the 16th we can make that our Bad Batch discussion because I really don't want to talk about the Acolyte at this point. I think everybody already knows how bad it is. It's so bad it got canceled, so I don't really think I need to say anything. And if I had to give it a score, I'm just going to go ahead and say it right now. If I had to give it a score, there.
Yeah,
I think I need to change that to the Acolyte.
-10. -10.
Yes.
-10. Because I mean, to be fair, I think I scored Kenobi as a -1, and I would advocate for a season 2 of Kenobi over a season 2 of Acolyte.
Oh, definitely. There is no contest there. I agree.
I would absolutely prefer a season 2 of goddamn Kenobi, and I hated that show for what it did over a season 2 of Acolyte.
Yep. But here we are at this point where Soraya Way hated a show so much Yet now he wishes there was a season 2 of it over the newest, most hated TV show. Crazy times. I never thought I'd hear Soriaway say he wanted a second season of Kenobi, but here we are. It's historical.
No, I don't. I don't want a second season of either of them. But if there was a gun to my head and there was a choice between a season 2 of Kenobi and a season 2 of Acolyte, I'll take the season 2 of Kenobi.
Okay, I'll give you that. See, for me, it's like, here's the hopeful side of me. I would take a season 2 of Kenobi. You know, I would still be sort of excited for it. Only, and I mean only, if I knew 100% without a shadow of a doubt that they weren't going to pull a Reva in this one and just make it about Obi-Wan and Anakin. That's it. That's it. Not even just Anakin. I mean, you know, like sort of like the Kenobi book that, you know, that's now Legends. I would take them retconning the entire first season in general and making a season 2 based off of that book. But there's no way that's going to happen. So, I mean, there ain't really nothing much to be excited for. I still think they could probably go in the right direction if they really tried. But that would require talent, which we all know they hidden their talents and they're going to lose them. But, you know, in favor of activism. Yeah, I've said a lot this stream. So if nobody else has anything else to say, I think we're going to end it because my bronchitis is getting annoying and I need to rest my voice. So I forgot how to end the stream. It's been so long. Let's see. All right. Yeah, here we go. I remember my outro now. No, I don't. If you enjoyed the stream, just leave a like, leave a comment, maybe subscribe if you feel so or feel to do so. Thanks, Soriaway and Chrono for being here and listening to me basically just venting instead of like, oh well, he left. Fine then, Soriaway. Nah, he said he had to go. But you know, thanks to both of you for being here, and I'm very grateful that you were here to listen to me vent over a lot of things. And oh yeah, here he came back. Yeah, there you are.
Sorry, I got banished to the Shadow Realm.
Sir, I was thanking you for being here, and then you just leave without saying a word. How dare you? Anyways, yes, thank you for being here, both of you, listening to me rant.
No worries.
And yeah, and you know, we'll be doing this again, hopefully on the 16th if nothing changes, and if I don't get killed by Wednesday or by then.
Oh yeah, do grade on the shooter.
No. By the shooter on Wednesday. Yeah. You don't want to say get killed by Wednesday. She's a lovely person.
Oh, you're right. Get killed by a shooter on Wednesday. Yeah, that's better terminology.
I'll be tuning the news to check on any incidents.
Yeah, I'll keep you guys updated on if we find anything out. There's not much out, but I think they're just trying not to say much. So if that person is watching, they don't know how close they're getting to getting them. I don't know. Anyways, that's a whole other, like, that's a off-screen discussion right there. But yeah, so thank you all for watching, and may the force be with you, and we are out of here. Soldier Majestic Guerrilla Sector, Guerrilla Sector. Take on now, 3 plans, 2 marches, 3.5. The problem of the tournament.